That's the President of the United States, Joe Biden. He's up in Massachusetts there. He's talking about green energy, the climate crisis, a big part of his agenda. He's making a push for transformation in American energy production towards green energy, and he's selling it in part as a major jobs program. But how much of an impact is it actually going to have, what he's talking about? So for more, let's bring in ABC News White House correspondent Mary Alice Parks. So, Mary Alice, here's an event. The president's up in Massachusetts in front of what looks to be a vacant lot strewn with garbage. I'm not quite sure what that was about, but he has an executive order on this matter that he wants to discuss, that he wants the country to know about. There's a $2.3 billion package to tackle climate change and improve infrastructure. Break that down for us first. What's he actually got to give the country?
Yeah, Terry, well, he was actually standing in front of what was a defunct coal plant that's hoping to turn into a manufacturing plant to start working on building cables to increase offshore wind energy in Massachusetts. It's been a big part of Massachusetts' economy, trying to work on making that offshore wind more sustainable, cheaper, better batteries, better cables. So he was trying to sort of be in a place that symbolized a transition in energy that he would like to see away from fossil fuels and towards renewable energy like that. But it was interesting that the majority of his executive actions announced today, including that new number, that $3.2 billion, really had to do with adapting to climate change. The numbers that he was rolling out today are executive actions that this administration is going to take to basically help communities deal with the effects of climate change, help them outfit buildings, residential buildings, commercial buildings, because they're going to face more extreme weather. He mentioned that last year alone, over $100 billion spent trying to deal with the damage from extreme weather events. Also new money to go for low-income families who are having to pay more in energy costs with this extreme heat that's hitting the country just this week. We've seen just millions of people under these extreme weather, extreme heat warnings. People are having to spend more on air conditioning, and so they're trying to make sure there's money available for people as they have to adapt and pay more for energy right now. So those numbers are really different than something that will help with combating climate change. They really are about adaptation, important, clearly, but very different than trying to move the country away from fossil fuels and towards renewable energy, which we know is pretty much the only thing that will actually start to dampen the effects, try to reverse the clock here and cut away at climate change.
Well, that's it exactly, Mary Alice, isn't it? It's a big, big problem, and a problem that really a president on his or her own cannot really get after in any big way. These programs, these ideas that the president has, there are small things that the president can do, but at the end of the day, it requires Congress to do something, attempt a national endeavor of that magnitude. Congress isn't going to do anything on climate. It's pretty clear after Joe mentioned. So is this the president just trying to get anything out there? Is this a response to Congress not acting? And does it really help the president either substantively on the issue or politically, where he's just mired in these low poll numbers?
I think it does help him politically with his base. He has to show Democratic base voters that he's doing something, that he understands the urgency here. He understands that the UN climate report called what is happening code red for humanity, like he mentioned. He has to show that he's responding to that in any way that he can. And I think we're going to continue to see pressure from Democratic voters, Democratic politicians, for him to do even more now that that climate legislation has just completely fallen apart on Capitol Hill. We're going to continue to see a big push for him to perhaps declare even a climate emergency or a public health emergency with this extreme weather and this extreme heat, because Democratic voters are demanding it. We've seen that across the country. This has been an issue that Democratic voters, especially young voters, are willing to vote on, are willing to march on. They care about this. And I think that right now, with this extreme weather that people are living through, everyone is feeling it. They're thinking about it. They're thinking that, oh my gosh, if this is the hottest summer we've ever had, but maybe the coolest summer we're ever going to have in the near future, it is terrifying to folks, and he wants to be able to respond to that. But it was very interesting that in that speech, he did not mention Joe Manchin's name. He did not mention the problem that has been within Democrats' own party. You've had this one lone holdout there, West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, from a relatively small state when it comes to population, but an outsized voice for coal in that state, and he has stood in the way of Democrats Democrats passing a bill just on their own. It has other Democrats, progressive Democrats, absolutely furious. But you heard instead President Biden really talk about his frustration with Republicans. He wasn't taking the bait, wasn't going after Joe Manchin.
Well, I want to ask about a climate crisis declaration from the president. What would that do? And don't Democrats need to persuade more people out there? They're young people, no question. They're planning their lives around what is going to be a disaster, slow-moving disaster through their lives. But the Democrats do need more senators, more voters to support their cause. How are they going to do that?
Well, more red state voters, sure. I mean, blue state voters are pretty clear on this, and I think that part of it gets to a representational issue. You know, you have these large blue states with millions of voters that have been active on this issue, that have been trying, frankly, to take this on a local level. I mean, we've seen leaders, and you heard the president reference this, you've seen leaders in some of these blue states try to put in place their own programs to move away from fossil fuels, to incentivize businesses and localities to move towards renewable energy. But yes, they need more red state voters. They need more senators that will vote with them, sure. And I think that part of the challenge here for President Biden is just to keep up this momentum. I think that there's just been so much frustration from voters and activists on this. There's a sense of despair, frankly, among a lot of young voters and a lot of young activists who feel like they did everything they were asked to. They showed up and voted. They elected Democrats. They elected majorities, and they don't understand why this is the kind of thing that's been put off and put off. They agree that it's going to take big actions from Congress, and they feel like they wanted that and they voted for that. And I think that he's going to have a really, really tough time. Democrats as a whole are going to have a tough time keeping young voters activated on this.
They do need voters in the red states because it is a national problem, and those voters count just as much, maybe more so, obviously, given the Senate and the Electoral College. Mary Alice Parks, thanks very much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.